Mountains have a rapport for mysteries and hauntings. It's as if all the world's eeriness finds refuge in these hill stations. Folk tales of spirits and serial killers runs amok. But there is one hill station in India in particular which is infamous for mishaps and mysteries. Every year, there is some story about a haunting, kidnapping, and even murder taking place here. This is the story of a small hilly town in Maharashtra where kids don't step out after sundown. This is the story of the mysterious murder in Matheran. Hi everyone, welcome to the Desi Crime Podcast, a show where we dive deep into some of the craziest cases from around South Asia. I'm your host Aryaan.
And I'm Aishwarya.
And the case that I have for you today is as bizarre as they come by. What's more bizarre than the crime itself is the town where the crime took place, a hill station called Matheran. This tiny vacation town is located 90 kilometers from Mumbai, a mountainous escape for the metropolitan man. To investigate this case, we visited Matheran, a place where cars and bikes are banned. Only horses or hand-pull carriages are allowed, where old buildings from pre-independence India lie scattered in ruins, where murders and myths are part of the day-to-day life. Chapter 1. Just Another Morning. It was December 12th, 2021. Just another morning in Matheran for Ketan Ramane. Ketan had lived in Matheran for years now, running a small hotel here, one of the many that populate this hill station. Mornings as a hotel caretaker are quite routine. Wake up before your guests, ensure they enjoy their breakfast, and most importantly, ensure that they leave before checkout time. Ketan was going about this routine per normal, until the breakfast was winding up and two of his guests hadn't shown up. Amjad Khan and Rubina Begum had checked in the day before on 11th December into Ketan's lodge. He was expecting them to grab breakfast. After all, who misses out on a free hotel buffet?
Aryaan, specifically as Desis, we do not miss out on the free breakfast buffet. I don't know what our reputation is in terms of checking out on time or not, but with breakfast, free breakfast, we have a reputation.
I mean, we always get our checkout extended.
Money's worth.
As a matter of fact, but dude, free breakfasts are, there was this funny meme I saw of how around like 8 a.m. this bunch, the hungover friends gathered around the breakfast buffet, adamant to eat even though they're not hungry, just so they can do that paisa vasuli,
get their money's
worth.
Yeah.
That's the most Indian thing there is.
Agreed.
So naturally, this stood out to Ketan Ramane. And he was also certain that they were still in their room because he had woken up before anybody else. On this occasion though, Ketan chose to afford the couple their privacy and didn't bother following up. Hours go by and now it's time to check out. But still no sign of Amjad or Rubina. Nothing about the couple had alerted Ketan the day before. They seemed like your standard honeymooning types that had come to Matheran for a romantic getaway from the bustle of Bombay. It was around noon when Ketan went to their room to check in on them. He knocks, but no one responds. He calls them out, but hears no one. Not only is he suspicious, he needs to get the room clean for the next batch of visitors. So he gets the master key and pushes the door open. Inside, there is no one. Ketan is sure he saw them come back the previous night, then where have Amjad and Rubina disappeared? Shocked and suspicious, he investigates the room, but finds nothing. He figures, why not see the bathroom? Not knowing opening that door would change his life forever. Lying on the tiled bathroom floor is a naked body. He immediately knows this person isn't unconscious because this person does not have a head. It is the headless corpse of Rubina that had been stripped naked. Ketan wastes no more time. The Matheran police department gets a call. A murder had taken place. like it does in many of the stories we cover here at the Desi Crime Podcast, stories for which you come to our channel. Our only request to you, in order to provide these stories on a regular basis, is to hit the subscribe button down there. That red little thing, it helps us continue to run the engines of Desi Studios.
So easy to do. Go do it right now. We're waiting for you while you do it. Just scroll down, hit the subscribe button, help us out.
Chapter 2: Murder in Matheran. 7 square kilometers perched upon the Western Ghats makes Matheran one of India's smallest hill stations. But don't let its perimeter confuse you for its popularity. Only 90 kilometers from Mumbai and 120 kilometers from Pune, it is a popular tourist destination in Maharashtra. Matheran in Marathi means forest on the forehead of mountains. And that tells you everything about the topography of this place. Lush green forests 800 meters above sea level. But that doesn't tell you everything about this unique tourist hotspot. For starters, it is Asia's only automobile-free hill station. That's right, it means no cars, no trucks, and no bikes. You can either walk it, get a horse to walk you, or get 2 people to push you up the hill like we did, or get a toy train that takes you to the top of the hill. But it only gets weirder from here. You see, Matheran was developed by the British, a certain Elphinstone, the governor of Bombay. Hill stations in India were a British invention anyway, a means to escape the sweltering summers of northern India. But after independence in 1947, many of the old British buildings were left in ruin with no one to maintain them. And where there are dilapidated British ruins, there are horror stories. Ask any local and they will rant to you about countless hauntings they know of firsthand. From evil witches to haunted children's hospitals, Matheran has it all. In fact, we did a paranormal investigation at some of these spots with India's most renowned ghost hunters, our friends at Pairs.
भैया आपका नाम क्या है?
मेरा नाम
सुरेश भैया, सुना है माथेरान में बहुत कहानियां हैं मर्डर और भूतों की, इसमें कुछ सच है?
नहीं
कोई भी सच नहीं है?
नहीं,
भूत में आप नहीं मानते?
कुछ नहीं, हमने अभी तक तो देखा नहीं,
अभी तक नहीं देखा।
भूत रहता है क्या रहता है?
अच्छा।
But one of the most popular ghost stories are not those of British era colonels or Parsi landowners, but of victims of murder. Over the decades, Matheran has seen countless murders. A simple search on the internet would reveal a dozen articles connecting Matheran to a kidnapping, beheading, and worse. Locals believe all these ghost sightings are actually victims of these countless crimes. Now, while the supernatural folktales can be dismissed as fiction, the crimes are very real. Most attribute this to Matheran's proximity to urban areas and its deep valleys and forests where evidence can be easily disposed of and crimes can inconspicuously be committed. So it is no wonder that when Assistant Inspector Sanjay Bangar got a call on 12th December, he sprung straight into action. Officer Bangar was no stranger to homicides. He had been posted in Matheran for years now and had spearheaded several investigations of this kind. Except that the murder of Rubina Begum would prove to be the toughest to crack. Along with other officers, he arrived at the scene of crime, Ketan's cottage, near the entry point of Matheran. The investigation was on. The cops began scrambling for hints. The first thing they noticed when they entered the bathroom was a scar on the victim's arm. It seemed like a fresh wound, a patch of skin that had been peeled off. Officer Bangar made a note of this, but his priority right now is to figure out who this dead individual is, and the second order of business is to find the man she checked in with. The cops opened the hotel register and find Amjad and Rubina scribbled into it. Since it is a hotel, they were hopeful they could trace the couple through their government IDs, which is mandatory to provide while checking in. But when Officer Bangar asks Ketan Ramane to produce their IDs, he confesses that he did not ask for them. A lapse in standard protocol made a straightforward investigation much more complicated. Were they to have Amjad's Aadhaar card or driving license, they would have circulated his picture, triangulated his home, etc. To make matters worse, Ketan did not have any CCTV cameras installed on the lodge's premises. Another lapse in protocol further complicating the search. In fact, we were able to get Ketan's contact information and reached out to him. We asked him if he'd be willing to interview, but he got defensive. He refused to speak on the record, continuously postponing our interview. Regardless, the police were certain Amjad was somehow involved, but had no idea who he was. This is the very same lodge where on December 11, 2021, a couple by the alleged name of Rubina Begum and Amjad Khan checked in for a day. In all this commotion though, one thing is obvious. The man who checked in with Rubina, the man named Amjad, didn't want their identity revealed. Combine the absence of IDs with the missing head, Officer Banger deduced that the scar on the arm must have also been a tattoo that could have helped identify the victim. That's why the perpetrator had scalped it out. He figured Amjad and Rubina are probably fake names as well. No picture, no name, no clues. Sanjay Banger knew he'd have to do something different. Chapter 3: Monkey Madness.
So what I'm noticing after being here is that this place isn't as big as I thought it was going to be. It's like 3 rooms really congested close to each other, and a huge row of other lodges that are also all really packed with a ton of people walking in and out and a lot of tourists. So I'm just kind of wondering the mechanics of how a murder can possibly take place here, considering how much population there is around, about the sound. How was she killed before she was beheaded? How was there no sound, no screaming, or did it happen really late in the night? I'm just wondering those details that aren't readily available right now.
The police were desperate for evidence, anything to give them a whiff. And so, Assistant Inspector Sanjay Banger created 10 search teams tasked with scouring the forests and valleys of Matheran. Their sole objective was to find absolutely anything pertaining to this crime, whether it was the woman's clothes or her head. Anything that would give the cops some semblance of a start. Sure, Matheran is just 7 square kilometers, but searching the whole forest is no joke. To make matters worse, Matheran is home to monkeys. Many monkeys. The 5,000 human residents of this town are outnumbered by their ancestral counterparts. Monkeys prove to be a menace for the investigating officers, not because they actively hinder the search, but because these tiny rascals are thieves. They steal countless things from tourists and dispose of them in shrubs and trees. Consequently, the forest is filled with random objects and clothes.
Aryaan, holy crap, monkeys, Indian monkeys, hill station monkeys. I absolutely hate them. I've had so many encounters, horrible encounters with monkeys. I had my ice cream stolen in a zoo from a monkey. There's one time in the grade 6, I was in the front line on the sports day sort of parade and almost about to faint in Kanpur heat. So I run back into my classroom from the front because I'm about to faint. My mom follows me with a paratha in hand, trying to get me to not faint. And the bloody asshole monkey steals the paratha from me. So I've had the worst encounters. Monkeys are the worst.
Aishwarya, I think it has something to do with the fact that you look like one of them. And so they think you are, one of theirs. Anyway, getting back to the story. In this heap of random objects on the forest floor bed, finding something belonging to the victim is tougher than finding a needle in a haystack. It's like finding a specific strand of hay in a haystack. We got a chance to talk to some of the cops involved in this investigation, and they recall how stressful that week was, how all their resources were invested in finding the culprit. I'm at the Matheran police station right now, the very same police station that uncovered Ram Silochan Pal's case. And it's rather fascinating that when I went in to talk to the police officers, they distinctly remember the details of the case. Like their eyes lit up when I mentioned.
And that's saying something for a city, a town with so many such cases. I guess this one must have been particularly crucial.
Yeah, I mean, a headless corpse, I guess, stands out to everybody. They said they cannot talk about the case on record, but they were willing to share the details with me. And we'll hopefully try to uncover more stuff. But it's this very police station and these very officers, and they're the same ones inside that participated in the investigation, that uncovered the perpetrator within 16 hours of the murder being discovered, which is incredible, especially of sometimes what we think of the Indian police. After hours, the 10 search teams reconvene at the police station. They lay their findings on a table for Officer Banger to rummage through. He doesn't know where to begin. His table is a heap of random items. He spends a whole while looking through torn shoes, discarded bags, and replica jerseys. Dejected, he steps out for a smoke break. When an idea flashes. A purse he had just inspected pops out to him. He goes back to the table, finds that purse, and searches it. He finds cosmetics, lipstick, and mascara, the standard kit. But he also finds a medical bag. It's not what's in the medical bag that excites Officer Banger, but rather what is on it. A logo and the name of a pharmacy. The address was written on the bag. It was a pharmacy in Goregaon, Mumbai. This wasn't solid evidence, nor did Officer Banger know for sure if it was the woman's bag. But he had a hunch. And in moments like these, an experienced cop's hunch is priceless. Banger's men begin dialing up the police stations in the vicinity of the pharmacy. They were looking for any missing persons reports that matched their victim, a woman in her 20s that had gone missing in the last week. And lo and behold, there was a match at the Banger Nagar police station. A 26-year-old had just been reported missing by her parents. But her name wasn't Rubina Begum. It was Poonam Pal. Poonam was a nursing student who had been reported missing by her family 2 days ago. They asked if she was single, and the family told the cops that Poonam had recently been married to a man named Ram Salochan Pal in May of 2021. This was a newlywed couple. The cops asked whether the husband had expressed any concern that his wife was missing, and Poonam's brother said that when he called Ram Salochan, he was equally surprised at his wife's disappearance. But what stood out to the cops was why the husband hadn't filed the missing persons report and taken such a nonchalant approach instead to the whole disappearance. They knew this man had answers that might lead them to the truth. While the cops in Goregaon head to the Khanda colony in Panvel, where Ram Salochan lived, the investigators in Matheran stumbled across another clue. They found CCTV footage, not from Ketan's hotel, which didn't have any, but from the Dasturi Naka entry point of Matheran. In any other case, CCTV footage would have made this an open and shut case, but not this one. That's because it was the god-awful year of 2021, when everyone wore masks thanks to a certain pandemic. Because of this, everyone's faces in the CCTV footage were covered. But the cops were able to find a couple in the footage buying tickets to enter Matheran on 11th December. When they showed this footage to Poonam's family, they confirmed it was in fact their daughter. The question was, who was this masked man in that very same footage? The cops got the answer when they knocked on Ram Salochan's door. Chapter 4. Sideburns. Ram Salochan is a 30-year-old software engineer. He works at an IT firm in Belapur. To the police, he seemed like a simple man who lived by modest means. When the cops reached his apartment, they began asking him questions about his wife's disappearance, and Ram Salochan fully cooperated. He, in fact, had an airtight alibi as well. He told the cops that he had, in fact, gone to Matheran a couple of days ago, but not with his wife. It was a work trip. When pressed on his wife's whereabouts, he seemed nervous, but that wasn't sufficient grounds to arrest him. Ram Salochan did not reveal anything to the police that would have proven helpful. The police were on their way out when one of the cops noticed Ram Salochan closely. Even though the CCTV footage is ambiguous thanks to the masks, the man with Poonam has a prominent feature on his face. Massive sideburns. Sideburns so big they are pushing out of his mask like those of a cowboy from an American Western film. The man in front of the cops, this simple IT engineer, also had massive sideburns. He was immediately taken into custody and interrogated. One question after another, and the cops prodded the holes in Ram Salochan's alibi. Eventually, he broke. Ram Salochan confessed that he had killed his newly wedded wife. There was no Amjad, no Rubina, just a jealous husband. His motive still baffles the cops. Friends of Poonam tell how from the outside the two were a loving couple. Even Poonam really liked Ram Salochan. She felt he was not judgmental and was open to talking about her past lovers and relationships. She thought her husband was very understanding. But it was quite the opposite as it turned out. Ram Salochan's empathy was a facade. He acted as if he was okay that Poonam had had other relationships with other men in the past, but inside him brewed hate, envy, and suspicion.
So Aryaan, this basically means that pretty much immediately after their marriage, this man had begun creating these stories in his head. Not that her infidelity or fidelity justifies her murder, but it's almost as if he didn't even have enough time to process his wife's affairs, if any she was having.
She didn't have enough time to cheat on him, Aishwarya.
Right,
They got
precisely.
married in May of 2021.
Right.
In fact, I'll tell you how his suspicions even came about. In one of the first nights the couple ever spent together. Mind you, this couple got married voluntarily. It was an arranged marriage, but both the families were happy to engage in it. And on one of their first nights together, when they were in the bed, Ram Salochan brings up the topic of past lovers, you know. He asks Poonam, have you ever been with somebody else? And Poonam thought this was a man that was willing to listen to a past, a rarity in India, right? Where you, otherwise there is no lack of jealous guys.
Correct.
So she thought that he is somebody who's willing to listen about her previous lovers and previous mistakes and follies. And so she confided. And the more she confided, the more jealous he got.
And that's such a control tactic almost to present this facade to someone of being an understanding guy, trying to be different from other guys, when you're using those to progressively get jealous, yet continuing to maintain a facade, not even telling your wife that you are becoming jealous of these details, only to plot her murder behind her back. That's crazy.
Absolutely. Ram Salochan started doubting Poonam's fidelity and he drove himself mad. He fantasized her unfaithfulness and resolved to end his own suffering by murdering her. As it turns out, this wasn't a crime of passion. It was a well thought out murder that was months into planning. In 2021, Ram Salochan had made multiple visits to Matheran. His sole objective was to find a lackadaisical hotel where they didn't check IDs or follow basic security protocol. If you walk down this road up until the very end where our hotel was, you'd realize it started with hotels on both flanks. So why did Ram Salochan Pal choose this very hotel when there are so many hotels? Well, he went to many hotels, sort of doing a recce before committing this murder, to find out hotels that do not take government IDs. For example, our hotel took government IDs as a measure of ensuring the guests and their identity. This hotel, Ketan Ramane's, before the murder at least, did not take people's ID, which is the reason why Ram Salochan Pal took this as his point of murder. After finding Ketan's lodge, Ram Salochan planned a trip with his wife in December. He brought along with him plastic bags and a knife. At midnight, he murdered his own wife based on insecurities that were a figment of his imagination. He cut her head, scalped the tattoo, and removed her clothes, assuming she'd be unidentified. But he forgot to shave his beard and to grow a pair of balls so he'd be less insecure. To wrap it up, the police made him take them to the site where he threw her head, and there it was, Poonam's cut head wrapped in a black plastic bag in the forest of Matheran. Ram Salochan Pal thought he had committed the perfect crime. In fact, he shared with the cops later that he had taken inspiration from a crime show that he had watched on TV. But a cloth bag, massive sideburns, and prompt investigation by the Matheran police proved to be his undoing.
अच्छा, और आप ये राम सलोचन पाल के बारे में क्या जानते हो? राम सलोचन पाल जो था, अपनी बीवी का सर काटा था उसने. यहाँ इन्वेस्टिगेशन हुई थी पूरी. ऑफिसर संजय बांगर थे. इतना नहीं मालूम. अच्छा.
I got a chance to talk to Officer Sanjay Bangar, who tells me that the case is still ongoing in the courts and is under sub judice. Ram Salochan Pal, meanwhile, is held behind bars. Most likely, this man will spend the remainder of his years in jail, rotting away, wondering if the price that he paid for his figments of imaginations was ever worth it. Until then, stay safe, stay crazy, and stay desi.
If you like what we do here at Desi Studios and absolutely love what we're wearing today, this is merch you can go buy all for yourself.
You can buy this Desi Crime merch in our YouTube store on the link down below at Karak Merch. Keep the engines at Desi Studios rolling so we can pay our videographer right behind the camera to make these amazing episodes just for you.